Happened in the 90s.
Matt was the fat kid, Steve was the black kid. Life wasn't always great, but you know what was? The 90s. Happened in the 90s. Yeah!
It's a bird.
It's a plane. No, it's Super Bed Saturday at Waterbed Gallery. 11 hours only. Super selection at super savings from the super stores. Only Waterbed Gallery, Michigan's largest, could put on such an event. Super savings on all our super sleep systems. Save on Simmons waterbeds, contemporary style, Soma waterbeds, even baby waterbeds. Every bed is on sale during Super Bed Saturday. Only at Waterbed Gallery.
But man, I want to give a shout out to Jim Brown and Tina Turner. They passed away since the last time we recorded, man. Jim Brown, more than just and I should change my background while I'm trying to give them propers, man. That's probably not the best one either. But what's important is that we lost Jim Brown, man. He was more than a football player, man. He was so dominant in the 60s. And he was in his prime when he left the game, set a bunch of records, man. He was like, man, fuck this NFL shit. I'm going to do some acting. Did some acting. He was involved in the civil rights movement. There's a epic picture of him, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Muhammad Ali, and Bill Russell. They were at the forefront as far as like star athletes, you know, standing at the line, man. And shout out to Jim Brown. And he did this in a time when racially it wasn't safe for us blacks at all. Less safe than it is now, and we're still not there. But RIP to that brother. And Tina Turner, man, she's a legend. She passed away at 83. And you know, she was one of the first females inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Her life story was portrayed by my favorite actress, Angela Bassett. I think she left this world better than how she came in. So RIP to both of them.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, man. Jim Brown, legend. One of the most dominant running backs of all. I mean, he's probably the only great Cleveland Brown of all time. If you really want to be honest about it.
I mean, hands down, he's easily the greatest Brown. I mean, his last name's Brown.
Discussion. Shit. Yeah, exactly. He was born for that. So both of them legends. Rest in peace. I mean, Jim Brown also, though, in some badass movies. You know, we got to just pay homage to that part of it, too. The dude was a legend in multiple careers.
Mars Attacks, I'm Going to Get You, Sucker.
I mean, Any Given Sunday, which we've discussed on this show, he was fucking shitting all over Lawrence fucking Taylor in that movie like a G. So it was awesome.
I don't get strokes. I give them.
Y'all some pussy ass. He just was like, I mean, honestly, I feel like in that moment, he could have actually whooped Lawrence Taylor's ass. Like, still.
It's a good chance, man.
And also, he looks, no, I'm not going to say that. Never mind.
You're going to say something about his appendage?
Nah, I'm not going to say nothing, Steve. I'm going to keep it kosher over here.
See, that's the thing, man. You do the pause thing. We both do the pause thing. But it's like, you can't do the pause thing and then go talking about somebody's dick. Like, yeah. Pause. So, Steve, well, that beast from X-Men, what kind of dick do you think he has?
I ain't going to touch it.
What side? You think he's got a big blue baby arm hanging between his thighs?
Start baiting me into start talking about X-Men dicks, Steve, because now we can't start that discussion, but that's not why we're here. I'm sorry. I'm fascinated by it. Sorry, Pause. Steve.
Pause. Hey, Steve, you know Mr. Johnson, the little guy from Friday? I bet he's
tripping. I bet he's dick. That's why he fell over.
I bet he's just a penis with a head underneath. Pause.
I hope it's loaded.
You crazy. Like a human pogo stick.
Yeah.
Why do you have to
Pause.
call me out, man? Like, we just got
It's,
back. We have had a break here, and now you're just calling me out in front of all these people? This is fucking
it's, just-
disgusting.
it's making you feel at home, man.
Hey,
You want me to go to Las Vegas at once?
3 days. Get in. 2 nights.
This is my last drink.
1 city.
We can't stop here. This is bad country.
Fear and loathing in Las Vegas.
You have a strange attitude.
Rated R. Starts May 22nd.
Hey, boys and girls, this is Steve G and Mad G with Happened in the 90s, a show where we talk about what happened in the 90s. So get out your Teddy Grahams and your Jodeci cassettes, because later on the drive home, I called her mom from a payphone. I said I was the cops and your husband's in jail. The state looks down on side of me. And that's about the time that bitch hung up on me. Nobody likes you when you're 23 and are still more amused by prank phone calls. What the hell is call ID? My friend said I said act my age. What's my age again? What's my age again?
is that a UFO?
Down.
I mean, are you the secret member of Blink 182, Steve?
I tried out.
You did? Okay.
Yeah. It's too black
Yeah.
in Midwestern.
Yeah.
Well, today, my friends, we're talking about all things June 1st in the 90s. Starting off in 1990, Frankenhooker premieres. A medical student sets out to recreate his decapitated fiancée by building her a new body made of Manhattan street prostitutes. Yes, you heard that right. Directed by Frank Henenlotter, starring James Lorenz, Patty Mullen, and Louise Lasser. Actually, no, it was starring Frank Henenlotter. But the description, you get what's advertised.
We get a Frankenhooker. I like that. I feel like this is a cult classic, Steve. I think this is something people like, maybe even in a joking way, but people are enjoying this.
Yeah, and early in the movie, the man, he's engaged, him and his fiance, they're celebrating, they're having a party, and the fiance, she gets just destroyed by this lawnmower.
Oh,
She
no,
gets destroyed by a
lawnmower?
lawnmower. Yeah, so he becomes a recluse. He's down in the dumps. He's living with his mom, and unbeknownst to his mom, I guess she never checks his room or checks the garage. He's been harvesting her body parts. And what you see behind me is one of her eyes. It's ridiculous. You have to smoke copious amounts of marijuana to make it through this.
I could do that, though. I could do that. I'm into it.
Because it's one of those so bad it's good. There's some joy in seeing this. And Bill Murray actually co-signed on this. He actually enjoyed this movie, man. I don't know if they paid him to say that, but
I mean, this looks like a nice like 80s, 90s, just crazy, almost like one of those trauma movies that Lloyd Kaufman makes that are just wacky, over the top horror movies. So I almost feel like I've seen this in my day, but
probably
anything about hookers and put a hooker in it, I'm in. So
and the man is turning crazy. Like, he's having dinner dates with her severed head. He kept all her body parts. And like I said, his mom, I don't know how this is getting past mom. Maybe she just thinks her little boy is just an angel. We would never do
like Dahmer's mom, she was just like, this guy's into some shit. I don't know. He's my boy. I love him.
And you don't get to see Frankenhooker until about an hour into the movie, man. It took this film 12 years to make.
Wow.
A whole decade and some change, man.
I like that they were just like, we're finishing this. I wrote fucking Frankenhooker. We're going to finish this movie. Whoa.
And yeah, so he's in his lab perfecting his craft or whatever, and he's trying to figure out, like, how do I get her to, like, come alive? Oh, I'm going to kill prostitutes. How am I going to kill prostitutes? I am going to make friends with the local drug dealer / pimp, and I'm going to, rub elbows in that crowd and get some crack from them. I'm going to get some crack, and I'm going to make a super crack. So not only is he he's just a mad scientist. He can make super crack, and that's what they call it on here, super crack. And he can put bodies together. This man might be more brilliant than Matlock and MacGyver.
Is he my hero? Because I love the vibe he's got. And also, just speaking from experience, she looks like maybe a couple of Tinder dates I went on in LA, honestly. She's got that energy. So, um, I love a nice, funny, bad horror movie, and I'm going to check this out, Steve.
And the hookers die from just spontaneously combusting. They smoke this super crack, and what you see behind you is one of the hookers just exploding in the hotel room. And that is cray cray in a hilarious way. He's having this like wild orgy party, and like they're not feeling him at first, but then he shows them this big bag of super crack, and they lose their minds. And like they're just going crazy for this.
Two-step, just bring out a big bag of crack rock. Hell yeah, dude!
Man, toot it up and boot it.
Hell yeah! Is that Pookie or is that fucking? Looks like one of our fucking band moms just fucking ripping a rock, Steve.
You used to be the prom queen. Now you the prom fiend. The bitches.
I just love it. Super crack. I mean, come on.
Super fucking crack, man. And like they were actually having a hard time getting the rating, man. They eventually cut an R-rated film to market in addition to the unrated. One of the trims needed to secure the R was to limit the exploding prostitutes to 6 from the uncut version's total of 7. It's like 7.
I'm gonna take one out. We can't have all these exploding prostitutes. This is disgusting.
Yeah, 7. That's the magic number. There's 7 days. 7 continents.
6, we can handle it. 7, that 6. Last one was wild. Take that out.
Yeah. It's one too many, buddy.
But hey, 12 years, 7 exploded prostitutes, and a lot of laughs, it sounds like, Steve. I'm in. Is this also one of these movies that delivers on like a lot of like titties? Is this one of those, Steve?
Oh, gratuitous titties. There's a lot of titties, and I don't know if we'll get flagged for this. This is him.
We're gonna have to blur that one, Steve. That was a titty.
They're implants
removed from a body though, so you can't even really tell. You know.
Yeah, they could be cakes.
You know
titty
what?
Cakes.
I'm gonna just leave it in. Let's see what happens. Let's get crazy with it. I'll see you in court, YouTube.
You too, Zuckerberg, just because. But like, it's gratuitous titties, and they're all beautiful. This movie is laughable, but you get some treats, some very tasty treats, man. Some delicious titty nibbles.
Oh, baby, it's not like they couldn't even put sapphires on screen. That's a titty nibble.
But you know somebody who probably never seen Frankenhooker in their life?
I don't know, Steve. Who?
Probably Arnold Schwarzenegger. 1, because he's Arnold fucking Schwarzenegger, and 2, because his movie Total Recall came out that same day, June 1st, 1990.
Legendary.
Arnold Schwarzenegger must figure out what's real and what's fantasy after a memory implant goes awry in this futuristic sci-fi favorite, directed by Paul Verhoeven, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, Rachel Ticotin, Sharon Stone, Michael Ironside, and Ronnie Cox.
I mean, this movie, there's a lot of benchmarks being set at this time in like special effects and stuff, but I do remember there was a lot of stuff in this movie that was like never before seen. It didn't look great in hindsight, but like there's a scene where like he walks behind this wall and it's an x-ray wall, so you see his like skeleton and shit. But I remember at the time, like that was like $1 million effect or some shit. Like they were really doing a lot of cool shit in this.
It really broke ground, man. This was a pioneer in the CGI world, man, because, you know, this is 1990. We're years removed from Toy Story and all the Pixar stuff. And Total Recall, they were one of the first to take a dabble in this. And this movie actually precedes Terminator 2, which would come out that following year, 91. So Schwarzenegger, man, like after watching this over the week, he's probably my favorite action star.
Oh, without a doubt. I actually was, I saw like the first Predator again. I was thinking of this because I saw it on the list. And I I was watching True Lies at the hotel, and I forgot how fucking badass that fucking movie is too. But dude, Arnold Schwarzenegger, without a doubt, the greatest action star of any generation. Like there are no stars like this anymore, dude.
Oh
Period.
man.
I mean, he's still a star. Like they're still trying to get him out because he's that much of a fucking thing. But this is dope. Speaking of titties, we get a chick with 3 in this. We get a guy with a weird twin coming out of his stomach, which always freaked me out as a kid. I forget, he has a weird quado or something weird. And also there's just like a lot of like weird visuals. Like I remember that like when they do the Total Recall thing, like his face like gets all fucked up and shit. And it's Arnold Schwarzenegger, so him screaming's already insane looking, but yeah, they really whoa. You know, there's a lot I have a big booger.
What's that thing at the back of the throat? It's that little like dumbbell looking thing.
Epiglottis.
I feel like that thing is like pulsating all the time.
Oh yeah, he probably has a workout for that too, Steve. I mean, every muscle in this guy's body is just jacked, so that's why he talks like that. My epiglottis.
It's not an Arnold movie unless he does
But you could see it just in these every screenshot you get of this looks like in a comic book panel or something. Like everything looks badass.
Master P missed the opportunity to have an Arnold cameo.
At least sample the yell, dude. Like we missed out.
Make him say nah, 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 nah. But like another reason why I love Schwarzenegger, man, is because like he's a real hero. One of the things I read about this is Michael Ironside, he played the bad guy in this. He was constantly on the phone in between takes, and when Schwarzenegger came to him and checked him about it, Ironside told him that his sister was suffering from cancer. So Arnold immediately brought Michael to his trailer, and they had an hour-long 3-way conversation with Ironside's sister about what exercises she should do and what kinds of food she should be eating. And Ironside has never forgotten Schwarzenegger's kindness, and neither has his sister. Like that's the kind of guy he is, man.
That's what's up, dude. I've actually heard this like Bert Kreischer, who has a movie coming out, or it's out already. It's called The Machine, but he did like something with Arnold Schwarzenegger recently that was like a cross promotional thing, and they worked out at that Venice Beach Gold's Gym that he used to work out at. But he was saying that like seeing Arnold Schwarzenegger in public, like how he treats everybody who comes up to him and is like, "Oh my God, you're Arnold Schwarzenegger!" Like he matches the energy of his fans and like gives them the moment that every fan wants with like their movie star hero and stuff. So that's even cooler that he did that thing for Michael Ironside. I'm glad that there are fucking dope celebrities like that, especially this guy. It's just like a huge mountain of muscle that's just like a teddy bear of a dude. That's dope.
He is, man, a gentle giant, man. And also in 1990, Mariah Carey delivers her first live television performance, singing Vision of Love on the Arsenio Hall show. And, you know, at the time, we didn't know how big of a deal this was. Maybe Arsenio himself, he just knew the girl could sing. And her first actual public television appearance, not just performance, but appearance. And she killed it, man.
Yeah, I was going to say, it wasn't her last. I mean,
definitely wasn't her last. That following year, 1991, after merging with Ha and the Comedy Channel, CTV, the comedy network, becomes Comedy Central. This is to avoid confusion with the Canadian broadcast network known as CTV.
Man, I'm glad it happened because I was a huge Comedy Central watcher for most of my childhood. So I got to see Kids in the Hall because of it. Weird shows like Soap and stuff like that I would have no business.
Throwback shows,
anyway, all that stuff. So
shout out in both versions. Yeah, they would show the British and American Whose Line Is It Anyway? You know, before South Park, we had Dr. Katz, professional therapist, and you know, countless stand-up comedians that we wouldn't have even known about had it not been for Comedy Central, man. Dave Attell,
Dane Cook.
Late Night with David
All
Tell.
those people.
Dane.
And they had some great shows, man. Like they had that Tough Crowd show. They did weird shit
Tough
like
Crowd.
for so long. Like and for a while it was like the one place kind of like stand-ups could go and have a life other than on like Johnny and stuff like that, you know?
Win Ben Stein's Money.
Yeah, hell yeah. A lot of great games.
The Man Show.
Beat the Geeks. You know.
Shout out to Comedy Central. You know who probably did not watch this shit? 1991 June 1st, Matthew?
Who?
Probably American singer-songwriter David Ruffin.
Okay. Wow.
One of the lead singers of the Temptations. Well, after completing a successful month-long tour in England, David Ruffin died on June 1st, 1991 from an accidental overdose of crack cocaine. He had reportedly collapsed at a West Philadelphia crack house where he had gone with his friend Donald. And if Will Smith never left to go to Bel Air, he probably could have had an impact. He probably.
Definitely. I mean, maybe this is some of that Frankenhooker super crack. Maybe he's a victim of that.
But, you know, he was widely regarded as one of the premier singers in the Motown era, man. You know, even Marvin Gaye said he might could fuck with him. Pause. But yeah, man, I don't know if you ever heard this phrase being used. Ain't nobody come to see you, Otis.
That sounds familiar, yeah. Is this the okay? Was there like a made-for-TV movie about the Temptations, and this guy
about the Temptations,
the guy who's a dick?
He had lead singer syndrome. Yes,
Okay.
He was like the Diana Ross of the Temptations. He's like, everybody came to see me. They need to call it David Ruffin and the Temptations, and they were like, dude, fuck you.
Yeah,
so they kicked him out,
dude.
Yeah.
Well, damn, that's wild though. Just so it be also from the crackhead's perspective, like you just have a dead celebrity in your crack house. That's not a good look.
That's never a good look.
Problems, but that sucks. I do remember that movie, and I remember the guy who played him, and he's in a lot of movies, and he's always the angry guy.
Leon?
Yeah, Leon, dude. He's always that dude, but he's a good actor.
And shout out to Leon. Thank you, Bounce. In 1992, the Stanley Cup final, your Pittsburgh Penguins, again, just like Jordan, just like Drake, they went back to back. They beat the Chicago Blackhawks 6-5 for a 3-1 series win, their second consecutive.
It's becoming like almost like a broken record at this point.
Mario Lemieux, we've talked about him more than the great one. And this is a decade when the great one, he was doing his thing too. But that Mario Lemieux, I don't know what to do.
We need to just have a 5-minute like obligatory Pittsburgh Penguins just segment on the show because we're constantly talking about them. Or Mario Lemieux, one or the other. I don't know.
Now, see, man, you say you don't give a fuck about hockey, but it would have been in your best benefit to be a hockey fan in the 90s as opposed to football. This would have worked in your favor.
Yeah, I'd rather be rooting for this than Cordell Stewart and shit. You're right about that.
I'm just saying, you might want to look for some throwbacks. Let's recreate a story. Like, no, man, I've been a Penguins fan my whole life.
Me and Jaromir Jagr used to hang out all the time back in the day.
Yeah. And, from doing this show, you got stories about Mario Lemieux about why you think like, oh, dude, no, he beat cancer. He came back and fucking was crushing it.
Bought the team. Bottom line, he bought the team or was part of the team. Either way, this guy's making money off his legacy and making money off that concession money, Steve. He's getting it all.
You see that? We're educating, man.
Yeah.
Masses. Educating for babies. That following year, 1993, Bell Biv DeVoe released their sophomore album, Hootie Mac. And there's not much to be said about Hootie Mac. It's the one that followed up Poison. And when you think of Bell Biv DeVoe, Poison, that's the first one you think of. Yeah. This wasn't Poison.
That's the review.
That's it.
One wasn't Poison.
Yeah. Hootie Mac, man, you can't make them all, Matt. You can't.
Hootie Mac. Can you give me a little background? Like, what's Hootie Mac, Steve? Is that a vibe?
And see, this takes you back to the early 90s. This is a very early 90s. I think it died maybe 95.
Okay.
Yeah, we can't take this into the millennium. Goodbye,
We
Hootie Mac.
can't. Belle Biv DeVoe, you gotta hang back. You can't make it to 99, buds.
Yeah,
But these guys
somebody
were
else.
all like, there's like, bring me. I know I'm not the fat guy, Steve. So just bring me up to speed. Who's in Belle Biv DeVoe? What are they created from? What was the transformer that led to this?
Well, the Bell is Ricky Bell. The Biv is Michael Bivins.
Mm-hmm.
DeVoe is Ronnie DeVoe from New Edition.
Yeah.
Now, New Edition, to a lot of people, one of the greatest boy bands ever. They had their fame in the 80s. The breakout star would eventually be Bobby Brown. He kind of has some David Ruffin-ish ways, but in all fairness, he's my favorite of New Edition. Bobby, he started doing his thing, breakout solo success. The other guys were like, well, shit, we got to find a replacement. They bring in Johnny Gill. They put out another New Edition album, but at the same time, people are having like side conversations. Ronnie, Ricky, Michael, they're like, hey man, we kind of got a vibe. We want to do some hip hop shit, more like less R&B, but mix it. And like that's what Belle Biv DeVoe became. They had like a hip hop vibe, kind of like how Jodeci, what their appeal was when they first came out. They're like the R&B singers with like, might drop a 16 from here. Yeah, but I don't think they were dropping 16. They were dropping 4s and 8s maybe. So here we are, Belle Biv DeVoe, and when they dropped Poison, that shit did numbers. Classic 90s tune. They even made an appearance on Fresh Prince, one of my favorites, man. But Hootie Mac is none of that, man. Poison, you are not. And somebody who probably didn't listen to Hootie Mac or appreciate it because I think he's that cool is probably Phoenix Suns guard Dan Marley, because Thunder Dan was sinking 8 3-pointers during the Suns' 120-114 win over Seattle in Game 5 of the Western Conference Finals.
8 3-pointers, Steve. 8. I mean, when did this get beaten? Because, I mean, how the fuck?
I'm sure one of those Pinko Splash Brothers broke it by now, man. But yeah,
But
that
Dan
fucked
Marley,
them.
dude, Dan Marley just going out there looking like one of the Hardy Boys, uh, just killing it, as a white dude in the NBA.
Former Cleveland Cavalier, and just Thunder Dan is one of my favorite nicknames in all of sports, man. It's simple but effective.
Yeah. And this guy's a
Thunder
badass.
Dan.
So many Dan Marley cards. For so long, I didn't know how to say his name. But once I did, I didn't forget. Because you got to put some respect on that. So,
Unfortunately for Danny Thunder, they would face Michael and them Bulls. Them Bulls in the 90s. They would beat the Sonics and face Mike. And you face Mike in the finals. We know how that story goes. Still love you, Danny.
you did
Thunder.
your best.
That following year, 1994, the Dinosaurs are airing their season 4 premiere, Monster Under the Bed. Earl lets the baby stay up to watch a monster movie, and then he can't sleep and won't let Fran or Earl sleep because of a monster under the bed. Fran and Earl retreat to a motel to sleep and let the kids babysit, and Charlene and Robbie find out he wasn't imagining things.
Yeah, Dinosaurs, first time we're talking about it. One of the weirdest ideas for a show, but to me, the way they pulled this off, like if you explain it to me or put it on paper, I'd be like, this is stupid as fuck. But there's a Henson involved. There's some puppetry going on. And it's basically just like Roseanne if it was dinosaurs,
In a way,
you know?
and Henson was actually working on this for years. The concept, the look, and everything. He had collaborators, and the show premiered a year after his death. And the networks were playing hardball with him. And it wasn't until the success of The Simpsons that they eventually relented and were like, you know what? Maybe children's programming could fit, or children-like programming could fit in prime time. So here we are, Dinosaurs.
And I mean, we may not ever talk about the end, but like one of the most dark endings to a show ever. Like the ending of this sitcom is one of the most weirdest, like unexpectedly like depressing and dark things I've ever watched. So they were going for it. And I always loved this. I mean, this actually did get big. Like the "not the mama" catchphrase. Uh, the baby blew up. So they did
The baby
something.
was the breakout star.
Yeah.
And they had was it George Jefferson, Sherman Hemsley. He played the boss. He was the voice of the boss. They had different cameo voice acting.
Yeah, Michael McKean's in this too.
One of the
Oh,
co-workers, I
God,
believe.
yeah, he's sorry. I think he does multiple voices in this, but I always liked this show, and they always had like, they'll cut away to like a news broadcast or something. There's always just like funny little side things that they'll throw in, or a funny name. Like I think the newscaster's name is like Howard Hand Up Me or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I always dug this as a kid, man. This episode too, very funny. It's like a very they figured out a good thing, and I mean, we're 4 seasons in, so clearly they were doing something right.
Yeah, man. And I think the death knell was the expense of producing the show, because at the time, those animatronics, I guess that was running up the tab, man. And so, like, that made things sparse, because even in this last season, man, the episodes are spread apart. And the actual final episode is a random day, when like around the time most shows are starting, man. But we start this episode off, and they're watching some mad scientist monster movie. And Fran is telling Earl the baby shouldn't be watching this. Earl explains that it's not really a horror movie as much as a documentary.
Science. I mean, we're trying to
Science.
educate this kid. So this is the vibe of my mom and dad. Just like, don't like, because this would happen to me. This kid's gonna get nightmares. This kid's a little twerp. So, but Earl, he's the dad. He's like, this is like the sitcom tropes. Dumb dad, wife, I guess too hot for the dad, bumbling father, the teenage twerpy kids, and then a baby that won't shut the fuck up. So they're watching this, and I like this horror movie, Steve. It's like basically Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, but it's a giant, like a squash, possibly.
Yeah, they're watching 50-foot vegetable theater. Yeah.
And
I want to watch a scary movie.
but they take baby up. Fran's like, don't do this. So they take the baby up. Earl and I think Robbie is the name of the son. They're enthralled with this shit. And Fran takes the baby up to bed, puts it away, and like any baby, he's like freaking out now. I remember these moments when you'd watch a movie, you'd be put to bed, and like your room suddenly became fraught with like dangers everywhere, because you thought like some monster was under your bed, which is exactly
But
what
you
happens here, basically.
but you wanted to watch that Freddy movie. I know I did. Like,
Oh,
you get those warnings, like, no, you shouldn't be watching this. Like, no, I want to watch Freddy. And lo and behold, still scared.
Exorcist, dude. That was mine. For some reason, somebody let an 8-year-old me and a couple other kids watch that, and it traumatized the shit out of me. So, um, the 90-foot squash, whatever it is, baby's he's worried. He's yelling. He's telling his parents there's a monster under the bed. So they come running, and of course they're like, no, no, there's no monster. Just, we're going to stay up with you. We're going to chill with you. Everything will be fine. And they do that. They stay up all night. The baby finally goes to sleep, but it's like 8 a.m. and now the day's got to start. So they're exhausted. And, I think even Earl's like, we can't keep doing this. And Fran's like, it's only going to be a day, but it is not only a day, Steve. It keeps going and going.
Yeah, they keep falling asleep on the kitchen table. And eventually they figure an idea that just go to a hotel. Let's go to a hotel, at least for one night, have Robbie and Charlene babysit. So they get the kids to do that. And not too long after they leave, the baby again calls for mama. And Charlene, she comes in and she tells the baby that, hey, you're tripping. You watched a bad movie. None of that stuff is real.
Chill
and
out.
Yeah, and the baby has her look under the bed, and she looks under the bed and she gets dragged under.
Yeah. And we don't know what happened. I mean, she might be dead, Steve, but Robbie has no fucking idea. He's down trying to make some pizzas. And my fat ass thinks these pizzas look delicious. Sidetrack Sally. I wanted some. But baby's crying again. And like, this is the thing. It's like a boy cried wolf syndrome. They're like, this kid won't shut up. So Robbie's like, just deal with it. Cheyenne will deal with it. And then he finally goes up there. Cheyenne's gone. So
Charlene.
and also I like the vibe that like he just shows up with like a vacuum because he's trying to placate a little baby. So he's like, I'll take care of it. Let me suck the monster out from under the bed. But they
Not the vacuum.
yeah, they move his crib, and lo and behold, Steve, there ain't a monster there, but there's a big ass hole. And clearly some shenanigans are going on here. So
It's a purple portal, and it's not to see Prince.
yeah, shit's crazy. And we hear Cheyenne screaming down there. And you know, say what you want, but Baby and Robbie, they immediately go down. Like they pause, go into the hole, pause.
Some big brother he is, man. You take your baby, literal baby, down to this like weird hole under your bedroom.
I didn't know that we ever saw the baby move other than when he's like moving around sitting. Like here we see he's crawling around. And you know, son of a bitch, Steve, there is a monster under this kid's bed. Clearly, because we go down to the bottom of that hole, and there's like a little layer in here. And Cheyenne's like in like a metal cage contraption. This is like some like Marilyn Manson. This is like his bedroom, basically.
Charlene.
Okay, my bad. Charlene. My bad. Charlene's in a cage. And there's no monster there though. So, you know, I don't know what this guy's vibe is, but he's clearly not worrying about some shit.
Yeah, man. And like the way she's describing the person is like you would think it's like some huge ogreish.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Oh my god, he has big claws and he's got big teeth. And then he shows up and it's just like some fat ass. It looks like an old grandpa thing.
It looks like the germ from the Mucinex commercials.
It looks like Rocco had a turtle friend. Remember Rocco's Modern Life? It looks like that if he was like in garbage for a couple of decades. Yeah.
Filbert.
Hell yeah. And he's not really like, he has no teeth. He's got no claws. He's just surly and old, Steve. He's been
smoking that dinosaur meth. Yeah, he's missing his sides and his fronts. He's
that super crack killed me. No, he just is pissed off, Steve. So, you know, they've left these kids in charge. Everything's gone to shit. Robbie gets captured. I don't know really exactly how, but he gets captured.
Well, yeah, you don't take a person with low center of gravity for granted. That's what he said. And what was funny was he was just like trying to like fawn him off like he was a dog. Like he has a slice of pizza. He's like, hey, here, boy, here. And like the next scene, they cut to him and they're all three of them are in the cage. I love it.
Yeah. So now this guy, he wants to eat the kids. So that's kind of scary. That's not cool. But we find out that this guy is basically just surly because he's like, you fucking people moved on top of my cave. You moved your house here. I got to listen to all this bullshit. Your dad's taking monster shits that are just falling into my cave here. I'm just trying to have some ladies over and have a good time, but I can't. So now I'm going to eat you, which seems a little like extreme. Like maybe you just go up and knock on the door and bring this up. But
yeah, it's hard to bring a lady over. I'm hearing your heavy ass father's thrust every Friday night. And like, I think this is about gentrification. I think that's what they're trying to touch on here.
Well, maybe, but in this case, we got some kids that are about to get eaten by some old surly monster thing. And finally, now that everything's gone to shit, and we see Fran and Earl come back, and nobody's answering the phone. So like some worried parents, they have to come figure out what's going on. They get home. Earl just sees the pizza, which I get, Steve, because it does look delicious. I'm hungry as fuck right now, and I'd love me a slice of that pizza. So he's like, go check on the kids. I'm going to just handle this, because I see two pizzas here that are just fully loaded. So I'm going to go ahead and go to town. Fran goes upstairs, sees the big purple anus to hell, or whatever's under the baby crib. And this is the only thing I got to say, Steve. You guys, this is a house. You guys moved this house to the spot, and you didn't notice in this whole time that under your baby's crib was a giant purple anus to some other dimension? You didn't notice that?
Is that a blind spot? Like, was a like, yeah, what's the explanation behind that? Architects, like, yeah, y'all probably shouldn't be working after that one.
Yeah.
Um,
Somebody did a design. That's a design fail. But regardless, the parents are on it now. And who else is on it now, Steve, is whoever, whatever town this is, find us because the cops are on it. We got some cops in the mix now because they called the cops.
yeah, and this shit is even going to make it to TV. The DNN special report, Monster Under the Bed with Howard Hand Up Me. And I don't know if you clocked this. One of the cops on this episode is voiced by Jeff Taylor, Tim Taylor's older brother, played by Tom Sharp. And he's one of those guys where you might not recognize him visually, but he had one of those voices in the 90s.
I love that. He was in on that action on Al Borland's underwear at the wedding, and he's in on this action, Steve. So shout out to Tim's brother. I believe he's one of the cops. And the cops, there's panic. There's kids missing. There's a hole in the ground. They know there's a monster. So people are trying to figure out what's going on, what to do. I feel like the TV's involved. They're doing like a hostage situation vibe. But finally, the cops are like, you know what we should do is just call the guy. Which I love that. I mean, it's just like you hadn't thought of that yet, but they think of that.
And he knows. He's aware of his local celebrity that was instant. Like, because he answers the phone as, hey, monster under the bed.
I mean, at this point, he's in LLCs, Steve, but the cops go full good cop, bad cop to the point where there's no real negotiation. It just gets crazy. And then the monster just is like, you know what? I'm going to eat these fucking kids. Bye.
Man,
and
fuck your kids.
He starts fuck chopping the shit. I'm just throwing it all in the pot. We're getting this, speed this up, but
I'm going to marinate that baby with carrots.
Yeah. And everything comes to a screeching halt, Steve, in the world when this magical commercial comes on with just the perfect jingle, and it stops everyone dead, and everyone in mass just starts singing this jingle, Steve. Was it written by Uncle Jesse and Joey? Because it's a hit.
Yeah, it's ripperific, man. It's Cocoa Fluff Cotton Candy.
Damn, son, where'd you find that? That's what I mean. That's
when he's trying to. What was funny was when the cop was trying to negotiate with the dude, and he was like, "You ever share hot cocoa with your dad?" And he's like, "Yeah, it brings back memories. It's like you understand." And then the cops was like, "Unleash those kids, you lousy son of a bitch!" Stop fucking around. Fuck the bullshit.
But
fuck your dad.
Like, in this moment of clarity that this song brings, Robbie's like, you know what? Can we figure something out? Like, maybe can we move the house? It's always the easiest answer, and that's exactly what happens, Steve. Instead of eating kids, they just move the house a couple feet, and we're good to go. I don't know why, but that's all it takes.
Simple solutions, man. Like, he was just doing his crosswords, like he said, and all of a sudden he had concrete poured over his head. How dare you?
By the way, I used to watch you and your wife make every morning, so I know.
Doesn't mean I liked it. I had to.
Earl, you have some issues. You got some polyps. Get them taken care of.
Man, that's a black dinosaur, man. That's what this is about. Like, they trying to tell a story, man. Like, they built the neighborhood on top of his grandma's house. He grew up in that house. Don't try to, phase him out. I ride with you, black.
I mean, I agree, Steve. They fucked this guy over. But my thing is, in this real estate market, in this dinosaur age, you're not checking the property. There was due diligence not done there. So that's somebody's failure on the real estate agency's side. And I'm speaking up for the Sinclairs, Steve. They didn't know. That wasn't their fault.
And yeah, he could have took them to court, man. He spared them in different ways.
Yeah, shit. I mean, he could have eaten the kids. This is prehistoric shit. I mean, that ain't even a crime there. He's just having a dinner and a meal or a show, So I don't know. It does speak to the gentrification, Steve, but I don't know if the Henson and ABC were going in that deep on it. I don't know. I'd be interested to talk to the writers, though.
I mean, it did happen when the man was in his grave. But also in 1994, The Critic is airing the episode Every Doris Has Her Day, Season 1, Episode 7. Jay becomes friends with Doris, the makeup lady, and eventually comes to believe that she is his birth mother.
Love. This is the John Lovitz vehicle that works, and I love, and it's the only John Lovitz vehicle that it works, and I love, Steve.
It has to be loathing for Lovitz to be working in it.
Yeah, I mean, either he's got to be like in it for 5 seconds, or it's this. And this episode specifically, like of all the Critic episodes, this is one I remember the most, just because it's kind of like, I don't know, like this is like heartfelt in a way that I find weird. I like it though.
Yeah, because he's an orphan and she's old, so they don't really have family, or the family that she had is probably dead or close to it. And, he was adopted.
And Doris is she's the surly, we get another surly character here. She loves her cigarettes and she loves fucking with Jay. But in the beginning, Steve, we also get a 90s call out for Howard Stern when Jay reviews Howard Stern's End, which looks like a winner to me, honestly.
Any of you girls want to take your bra? You girls always say, but never do. You never put out. You're like my wife.
You know what I do to you? You know what I do to you right now? So Howard Stern's End is not going to win any awards. But Jay has on somebody who, like a star of it, Sir Roger something, who's like a thespian. And he has this guy on to interview him. And his interview question is, why in the hell did you do this? Which I love. He's holding their feet to the fire, Steve. So I love that.
Yeah, as he should. And backstage, the guy, he offers him tickets to his retelling of Hunchback of Notre Dame. It's called Hunch.
Yeah.
And so Jay, he's like, hold on, I have to have a conversation with my assistant. He goes into the other room and just starts having a fake conversation. It's like, you should take out that Sharon Stone. She's available. Oh, I'll see what I can do if she fits my schedule. And he goes in there and it's just Jay.
Yeah, like, but he has the door open at a certain point, so he's like trying to hide it, and then it's like a whole Mrs. Doubtfire thing. Basically, he's like,
I would like
you should ask that hottie out. She loves you. Nah, that's okay. That's all right.
I would like for you to meet Ethel, but she just jumped out of the window.
Oh man. So now he's got the tickets, Steve. So he has to find a date. And this I love because we get a couple funny jokes. The first thing he thinks is to find a date is to call the girl that he just went out on a date for. So he calls her, and the roommate's like, she's still in the shower. So then she's like scrubbing herself like Cher and Silkwood, just like, unclean.
Get the dirty off of me. It's been 3 days since we dated.
And then he goes to a health club, because you can pick up some hot babes there, but he's in the jacuzzi bubbling away. But then they're like, wait, is that plugged in? And it's not. And he's just farting in the fucking tub, Steve. Not a good look.
Yeah, he's running the girls away from him, man. And so he throws a special episode on his show, Win a Dream Date with Jay. And the question was, who was Steven Spielberg's extraterrestrial? And he says, like, this for girls. His first caller is a guy. Richard Dreyfuss.
That's his only caller, honestly.
Yeah. His only.
So he has no option. So you know what? He's like, you know what, Doris? Let me take you out. So he takes his hairdresser out. And, that's really the last. It's like taking your mom. It's really.
He says that. You're old enough to be my mother, so you're fat enough to be my car.
Doris comes. She looks like she's going to prom as an old woman. But they go into this show, Steve, and first of all, this is the experience of going to see. I actually, me and Kendra, I think I've told this on this show before, but we went to see a theater production in LA because Kelsey Grammer was the star of it. But we didn't know what it was about, and it was stage theater. So invariably when you go to this, if you're a normal person, you're looking at your watch the whole time and you're trying to figure out ways to shit on what you're watching because it's awful to watch. So that's what happens here. And this is like a friendship burgeoning. They're sitting here watching it, and Doris throws the first jab, and she's just like, I shave for this.
Yeah.
And I think what Jay's like, I've got a hunch. This bites.
And then a bell comes down. They have like a prop coming from stage that like rings his head. He's like, Daddy, can I wear the jammies with the feet?
And finally, after looking at their watches over and over again, the show ends, but not before Toyota gets like a nice product placement, which I love too. Like that's inevitably what's going to happen in theater is, you know, Shakespeare's going to be like, there's nothing like this delicious Pepsi when I'm trying to find my Juliet, you know, something like that. It's something cheesy like that, but they end the night, they end the show, they shit all over it. And then Jay and Doris just, they basically like start going on a date, which is weird.
Yeah. She invites him in to her apartment, and I don't know why like he did this, but it looked like when her back was turned, he was going to like hit her.
Well, it's because they're in New York City. She's living in like a huge palatial apartment. She says it's rent controlled and it's only $120 a month. And as she finds out how much it is, he's about to brain her. And she's like, you're not going to steal my apartment from me. So that's why.
Yeah.
But I mean, $120, Steve. I mean, I might brain the bitch too, honestly, for that kind of real estate. You're going to be a millionaire.
You were going to bash in my head and take over my apartment, weren't you?
But this starts like a quick friendship between the two of them, and they like bond and they start hanging out more, really. I mean, they find out that they're friends. They hang out at her apartment that night, and funnily enough, the next morning, Jay wakes up like almost thinking that he's like had some sex. Because he's like, who's the lucky lady? Because he wakes up in a strange bed. But then he sees Doris and he's like, oh, Jesus. Oh, no. But I don't get that, Steve. Like, did he think that he was drugged and somehow, like, blacked out? Because he seemed pretty cognizant the whole night.
And his line of reasoning and thought process is fuck, marry, kill, man. Good old Jay Sherman.
Would you do it, Steve? Doris?
Doris, man, she got to keep those false fronts in. She got as long as those don't pop out, we're good.
I mean, that apartment alone, Steve, you're living the good life. So, after that, you know, I think actually Jay even leaves the apartment and thinks like for a while that they have fucked, but then they get back to work. He sees Doris and he's acting all weird. And she's like, wait, you think we had sex? Like, I would not have sex with you. You're disgusting or something of that nature. So he's like, whoa, thank God. And then this starts like the montage. Like now they go to Central Park and they're like in a boat. They're in like singing with each other and stuff. And this is where I'm like, is he trying to fuck or are they just friends? Because this seems kind of
just buddies.
Are you that desperate? Because you're hanging out with like an 80-year-old woman or whatever she might be 100 for all I know. She's the Highlander, Steve. Cigarettes. That's the key.
And how do we get to him checking his like lineage? Because I don't know. The source I watched this from, it seemed like it was jumping. I might have missed it.
Well, in this, like they start hanging out a bunch, and through that, like one of the last days, Doris reveals that she a long time ago gave up a son, and Jay's like, that's crazy because I'm adopted, and she like the timing sort of adds up, and Jay's like, I think you're my mom. So they first go to an orphanage, and they're like the orphanage Jay came from, and this like priest is like, you get 3 questions. I can't tell you who it is, but you get 3 questions, and Jay's like fucks the bag up on that. Yeah. And then they do a blood test. And as they do that, and then they go to work again. So Jay's sitting with Doris, getting his hair done. The boss, which I can't remember that guy's name, the boss comes in. And he wants Jay to give this great review for this movie he's doing with Arnold Schwarzenegger that's getting panned.
It's a Dirty Dozen remake.
Yeah, it's like the Expendables before that happened, and it's not doing well. He needs a good review, and Jay like he's like obviously he wants his credibility not to be tarnished, so he's like no. And I think Doris like stands up for him, and in the process, the boss is like, "Oh yeah, fuck you, you're fired." And Jay agrees if Doris can keep her job, that he'll give this movie a good review. And as this is happening, they also find out just through the blood test that they're not related. So Jay basically just tells her, he's like, you know what? Most people don't get to pick who their mom and dad is, but I'm going to say she's his spiritual mother. You know, she's his godmother, basically. And that's how the episode ends.
They ride bikes
in
Central Park until Jay runs into a carriage and gets ejected from his seat.
But we all need like an old salty lady like in our life, Steve. I'm realizing that you got to have a surly old person to give you some perspective on what you could be living and, you know, brighten your life a little bit by comparison. So word to the wise for all you youngins out there.
They are the voice of the voiceless. Shout out to B. Arthur. Somebody who probably didn't watch this episode of The Critic on June 1st, 1994, though, Matt, is probably Indiana guard Reggie Miller, because he was drilling a record 5 3-pointers in the fourth quarter of the Pacers' 93-86 win over the host New York Knicks in Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Finals.
Is this the infamous one where he made like, he just scored like 10 points in like 0.5 seconds or whatever? Yeah.
Buckets after buckets. And, you know, this is when he was getting at Spike Lee. You know, Spike Lee, this is around the time he was like constantly up front row at Madison Square Garden. So him and Reggie, they would have a back and forth. And this is the series that started it.
I was not as somebody who appreciated Reggie Miller enough as a kid, because we had so like Michael. So like he was my go-to. But like the fact that he was like crushing it, I didn't realize at the time that Reggie Miller was such a vibrant shit talker as well. Like, yeah. I appreciate shit like this, like what you see behind you. Him fucking with fans and like annihilating a team and just like
on their home court.
Yeah, and living in the moment like that. I love that shit. Like when T.O. did that shit, I know you don't like it, but like the Dallas Star shit, all that.
I respect it.
Exactly. And this guy's a legend. And he was that good. I mean, if there's anybody that's sort of got really screwed, there's a lot of basketball players that came up along like Michael Jordan. He's one of them because, I mean, this guy you wanted that fucking just nasty jump shot, Steve. You couldn't miss.
And he had to be tough, man, playing against Mike. They were in the same division, Indiana and Chicago. And, you know, around this time, when he got drafted, the bad boys were forming, so he had to face Detroit 4 times a year.
And he had to just be in Indiana for a lot of his life, which is not really fun, you know.
His whole career. Like in NBA, you're not going to get a Reggie Miller in this day and age, man. Like he played his whole career in Indiana.
And also just speaking on the DNA family, I mean, his sister will body you up on the court too. So the whole family's just living athletic greatness. And also Reggie Miller, really good at broadcasting too. I love like hearing him talk about basketball and shit.
Man knows it. Somebody else who could hoop was that Billy Ho. Billy Ho, played by Woody Harrelson. Woody Harrelson was arrested in Lee County, Kentucky, after he symbolically planted 4 hemp seeds to challenge the state law, which did not distinguish between industrial hemp and marijuana in 1996.
And I've always respected Woody because of his activism for pot. So shout out to the dude for just being wholeheartedly into legalization. He lived it all. He unabashedly was smoking the shit and telling people about it before a lot of people were. So I love that.
Because we had a lot of boomers still in office, in the Senate and all of that, who were from that reefer madness era, who thought, oh, smoke the reefers and you start microwaving cats. Like, no, that is just a crazy motherfucker who was going to do that shit regardless. but Woody, man, you know, he used his celebrity and his platform to speak out against the shit. Like, no, you're stupid. Weed is actually awesome.
Yeah. Woody, Willie, Snoop, Cheech and Chong, McConaughey, and those are my Mount Rushmore of potheads, and there's many more, but
It's
those
a
are
lot of
my
heads, but
yeah.
I get what you're saying.
Pause. But Woody, just to me, what I liked about him also is that he was like a very high profile actor. Like Willie Nelson, it's like nobody's gonna say shit to that guy. He's a legend. He's a
Yeah.
singer. People like rock stars are supposed to be wild anyway. But like he was in movies and shit, and I feel like at this time, like when he was doing things like this almost can't could have fucked his career up, which is weird to say because now weed's nothing. It's everybody
Yeah.
smokes weed. So just shout out to Woody, dude, annihilating it. Part of so many great '90s movies, and I also like just like planting some hemp seeds because I like getting fucked with for doing something that means nothing. Like you can't even get high off the shit, cops. Wise up.
Yeah, who should buy my dress?
He's gonna get those pot plants some water when they're thirsty, Steve, because that's what he does. That's the kind of guy he is.
And also serve you some ales in Boston. But in 1997, Freakazoid is airing their series finale. And the series chronicles the adventures of the title character, Freakazoid, a crazy teenage superhero who fights crime in Washington, D.C. It also featured many episodes with the adventures of other bizarre superheroes. Um, I know we've talked about this briefly in passing. Neither of us cared for it when it aired, but I guarantee you, Matt, if we both watch this now, we would appreciate it because it is produced by Steven Spielberg. The animation is the same as Pinky and the Brain, Tiny Toon Adventures, Animaniacs. I think this came at a time when we were starting to like go into our pre-adolescent days and these kind of cartoons weren't popping. Like, you know, those other ones, they came when we were still kids. And I feel like it was just a time thing.
Yeah, and it's weird because we grew up with like shows like The Simpsons, and like then cartoons, like adult cartoons, started to become more popularized, like when we were in high school. Because I mean, we watched Family Guy. I remember I was actually talking about this, funnily enough, just sidetracking. We drove past your grandma's old house on Echo Junction, and I
Yeah.
was like, I remember watching Family Guy for like the first time with Steve in the living room of that house, whenever that
Wow.
was. But I definitely remember doing that there, and we grew up with cartoons is why I'm saying this. And
Yeah.
I don't know, there was like a weird cutoff when we were growing up, or at least for me personally, where I was like, I can't watch cartoons anymore. I gotta watch like cool stuff. Cartoons aren't
Yeah.
cool, but they were. And then like in my 20s, that's basically just all I watched, high as fuck on a
It's
couch, so
it's a cycle. And I think like, you know, it's kind of like Futurama. Didn't appreciate it at the time, didn't care to, just didn't have time. We already invested in Simpsons and we already stopped watching that. But I think Freakazoid is available on one of the streams, man, and I'm gonna check that out.
well, I will say that's a great sales pitch, though, because the one thing I did not know about that I'm probably you did say this when we brought it up previously is it's a Steven Spielberg joint. So if you put that there, I'm gonna check
Yeah.
it out. Even hopefully it's good, but like definitely that'll bring me to the party. So maybe I will. Well,
And
TBD on that.
and why I think we're both that's one of the reasons, but I think we'll appreciate it is because they're pop cultural savvy. Like his other cartoons that we did watch, Tiny Toons, and they would make like pop cultural references from time to time. And I'm sure they do that on Freakazoid. I
Okay.
love when cartoons do that.
Hell yeah, dude. Well, I'm in.
But somebody who probably never watched Freakazoid, especially on this day on June 1st, 1997, is probably LA Dodger Wilton Guerrero because he was swinging the bat, Matt. The bat broke and it revealed a cork.
I always wondered about this shit when you heard about it. Like, what does that do? I know. What is the mechanic? What is the scientifics on that? Does that just make you hit it further? I guess.
I mean, it has to. Like, I don't think they're doing it for the.
Corking, dude.
Yeah,
Who corks a bat? Who's the cork guy? You know?
yeah.
Is it some
Who's the
slime
culprit, right?
ball? There's some guy like in some lab someplace like, yeah. Hold on one
It's just
second. Let me get
some
those
like
corks.
some like greasy like Guido dude in the underworld. Like that's his thing. Doesn't sell drugs, doesn't pimp hoes. He just corks bats, and he has top of the line, state of the art corked
He can get
bats.
you anything. Louisville Slugger, he'll cork anything. He'll cork one of those off-brand Walmart bats if you want him to. He's sick.
Your kid's still playing in that tournament this summer? Yeah, man. We'll have him on TV, man. He'll be hitting them out of Fenway.
You think your heroes don't? You think Babe Ruth didn't have a cork in his bat? You stupid fuck.
He bought from my great grandfather.
So what was the like? What happens when you get caught, Steve?
You get suspended. You owe a shit ton of money. And Wilton Guerrero, he's the brother of a more popular Vladimir, Vladdy.
I've heard
whose son is actually he's his brother, and he ain't got Vlad bread. I don't think his career there was a cut
all on cork bats, Steve. He fucked up the investment, and then he got caught. Yeah. Shame on you.
But yeah, you pay a hefty fine, and that's what he's known for mostly. He played in the league for about a good 6-7 years, which is the average for run of the mill guys.
Back in the game, like did he come back after that and like recover?
He came back.
This? Okay.
Yeah, he came back, but I mean he's known more for this, and it made it bad because he hit a blooper, and he's like kind of hesitant to run because the bat broke, and so he's kind of like.
He's like collecting it like no I don't want this to go I don't want all those shards. It's sharp, it's dangerous.
And so the ump saw this. He was like, something about that whole deal he did. Like, let's look into that.
That's a cork.
I knew it. I could smell it.
Okay, well, shame on you, dude. Shame on you. You got caught. Lad had to fucking pick it up. I wonder if he had a cork in his bat, Steve, like his big old brother. Like, no.
Let's not do Vlad like that. Vlad, he's a Hall of Famer. Yeah. And his baby boy is in the game. But in 1998, Scott Weiland's public problems with drugs continue when he is arrested in New York after buying heroin.
Man, that guy I remember this was the broken record of the 90s, Steve. Talk about a guy who just couldn't pick it up.
Like I knew more about this than the music, and the music is great, but this was what like led me. Like, who is Scott Weiland? Like, damn, he's doing all this shit and he's not dead. Like, he loves this shit. Who Sex Pistols or
yeah, like, and it was like every 6 months, be like Scott Weiland's recovering. They're about to do a new a tour, and then a day later, it's like Scott Weiland's found in a puddle of piss outside the Chateau Marmont in L.A. Just doped the fuck out.
And I started listening to Stone Temple Pilots, and it's like, man, this dude can sing. Yeah, maybe I should try heroin.
What was the other band because remember he did something right before he died that was like a new thing, right?
Yeah, I think that might have been a super group with other members of other bands. Velvet Revolver. Yeah. I believe was that Slash's project as well. Yeah, Slash was in it. It had Duff McKagan from Guns N' Roses. Dave Kushner. So yeah, man. And I love Slash. Scott Weiland, dude.
This guy was real, like you said, super STP. Yeah. That was a 90s fucking band that everybody loved. And this guy was like the quintessential rock star that, other people like live long enough to maybe like just get out of this, but he was just couldn't. Like I guess heroin was that good to this dude that he just could never give it up. So, or crack or whatever the fuck.
Man, R.I.P. to that man, dude. His music, man, is still here, and as long as this podcast is around, nobody will forget. But in 1999, various artists released the soundtrack to Austin Powers' The Spy Who Shagged Me, and it had a lot of all-stars: Madonna, The Who, R.E.M. I know that's a band you don't care for. Lenny Kravitz, Green Day.
Okay.
Quincy Jones, even, man.
I don't recall the soundtrack being the banger-filled thing, but people shit on this movie. But I used to eat this shit up, Steve.
This is the best one. It's the one that
a consumer, but this is the best one. I even like the other. I like the second one too.
This is the second one.
Okay, was this the one? Which is the one with Beyonce? That's the last one.
That's Gold Member. That didn't happen in the 90s.
Okay, my bad. This one is the best one. And
Yeah.
Austin Powers as a whole, I'm into it. It was like it was another like this is coming at the end of the goofy comedies, the spoofings. And this was filled with fucking SNL, like Will Ferrell's the all the side characters that were in this made the movie.
This is the one that introduced us to Mini Me, Vern Troyer, man, R.I.P.
And we get a decade of Lorne Michaels impressions, like as Doctor Whatever Evil, like it's just Lorne Michaels. So this was a huge thing, and yeah, I'm a consumer. I love blockbusters and summer movies. So every summer that these came out, I was just eating this up. I love me some Michael Myers back in the day.
Nothing wrong with him now. He's just been kind of silent lately. But also in 1999, True releases The Crime Family. And that is the, I guess you could say, super group of Master P, Silk the Shocker, and C Murder. And they formed True, spelled TRU. And this is a double album, The Crime Family was. Over an hour, as you could imagine. But just like a lot of No Limit albums, it's features from everybody just about in the camp.
I mean, I honestly, Steve, true. A double No Limit album of like a supergroup. I didn't even know this existed. I feel bad.
It's solid. It's not 5-star, but the fact that you're gonna get No Limit artists, like various artists, and some of them like I really like. Even Snoop has a cameo with Charlie Wilson, Uncle Charlie. So
Okay.
it you get that No Limit sound, that New Orleans. You get some
No
um
Mystical on it, I'm assuming. Mystical shows up. Is he there? No?
Mystical might have been locked up around this time because I don't believe he's on it. But Mr. Servon, Mia X, Magic, Fiend. Yeah,
Well.
I'm just going down the list, man. But yeah, sorry. But in 1999, also on that same day, Blink 182 released their third album, Enema of the State, and that is their breakout album. That's the one with "What's My Age Again," All the Small Things, Adam Song, and the whole album is 35 minutes and 17 seconds. Man, this was kind of like an introduction of pop punk. Punk songs are all about 2 minutes,
Yeah.
just about 2 or 3 minutes. And, it's a mix of that. It's got the punk element because the songs are short, but there's melody. So it was really hard to classify them as punk.
Yeah, I was like, pop something, but I always just kind of like these guys because they showed like some sort of sense of humor in their videos and stuff. I never, the music is whatever. This was never, I don't like punk music that much. And this was only in my like view because it was so prolific. Like it was all over MTV. A lot
Yeah.
of our friends listened to this, and it's not bad. This wasn't like my cup of tea really. But this album in particular, somebody we knew, there was one person of separation between you and somebody that had this CD. So
Like Matt's palette for punk, this is probably the most, like the furthest you will go into that realm of punk.
some 41-ish. This, you know, there's no FX punk because but
Yeah.
those were the people like, but I I didn't really even like explore that too much just because it's never my thing. It's always whiny to me. It's fast. I couldn't understand what it was. I sound like an old man, but I respect
No,
the
I agree.
of punk. I like people that are just like say fuck it and are anti-establishment. I like that like thinking, but the music it is
Yeah.
what it is.
And like this album I enjoyed still, man. The fact that they had a porn star, and they would have porn stars in their videos.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the lady right here, she's a porn star. She's still actually not bad looking, man. But this represented, like a critic said this, it represented middle class teenage life, especially at this time. And we were teenagers when this was released, and this did reflect the Perrysburg everyday town USA living as a teenager going to everyday town USA high school.
Hell yeah. Yep. This is white people suburbia rock punk music, Steve. You're right. This is our Wonder Years music. And Tom,
And also,
whatever his name is, the UFO guy, I just like for whatever reason I always thought he was cool. and now he's a psychopath or some sort of alien guy. So it's just weird how this has gone on. And also shout out Mark Hoppus, cancer survivor. So shout out to that.
Wow, I didn't know that. But like you brought up something I thought was relevant, man. Travis Barker ended up being the breakout star of this band. And it's rare that the drummer like overlaps. You could say the band. I think more people, especially the newer generation, they probably know more about Travis Barker than a Blink 182. And at the time, we never would have thought that.
Yeah, for sure. Especially the drummer. I think like Tommy Lee's the only person I could ever think of in our generation that like eclipsed it. But it was like because of some shit. It wasn't really because he was a good drummer. And I feel like at least for a while, Travis Barker was famous for being a good drummer. He had a lot of tragic shit happen to him too. But yeah, dude, the dude was a badass. And he had a cool, like, I remember he had a CD come out where he like had a bunch of featured like rappers on it. And he was like drumming beats and stuff. And like, yeah, dude's a legend. And now he's fucking a Kardashian and rich beyond belief. So I love that for him.
And I mean, just collaboration, man, like branching out into other genres because like he's done work with MCs, with rappers, man. So yeah, shout out to Travis. And also in 1999, Dido, I always call her Eminem Lady. She releases her album, No Angel. And she's from the UK. And I know her from the song with Eminem. Tears come falling out my mind, and and it's like I'll be great. Put your picture on my wall. That's my shit.
You know what's weird is that when I saw this on the list, I actually confused Dido with that weird. It was like Norwegian girls. There was like two of them, and it was like a weird, almost like lesbian like singing group. And people had posters like this was a thing, Steve. I'm not making this up, and I know when we get off, we'll figure it out. But
yeah, because I'm thinking of them
because you're not that, but you know, I like that Eminem song. That was it was a nice melancholy, like poetic song. I like that.
And that song that Stan came from was "Thank You," and that's actually on this album.
For giving me the best days of my life. So yeah, shout out Dido. You're not two Norwegian lesbians. You're one person, and you hung out with Eminem. So
she's like a Caucasian Sade. I realize because this album, it's actually pretty good.
That's a good sales pitch, Steve. You're good at like this market. You're good at this. You're good at like summing it up. I like that.
I wish I could do that with my podcast. Also in 99, Jennifer Lopez released her debut album On the 6th, and this introduced us to Jenny from the Block. We only knew of her as the fly girl in the back behind Marlon and Damon. Like, girl, you just do step routines. Now she's at the forefront, and she's on the 6th. Jenny from the Block.
Yeah, she blew up. I mean, and it was wild too because this happened, and then the acting thing happened. It seemed like bing bang boom. You know,
the acting thing happened, and then the dress. I think that is memorable, man, because I think didn't Trey Parker and Matt Stone redo that?
Yeah, she definitely was going. She was trying to show it off, and she's gorgeous. And I do want to shout out something that I don't think people. This is just a movie that's gone by the wayside. There's a movie called The Cell that Jennifer Lopez. This is one of her first movies, and it is one of the most fucking weird, creepy, trippy movies, and it just I don't hear people talking about it, and it's why I actually respected J-Lo's acting ability for a while because I like that movie so much.
You had that in your collection, I remember.
Oh yeah, I mean that was a movie you put on, and honestly, like it was kind of like almost too intense. Like I think we watched it tripping sometime, and it was meant for that, but it's like a lot. So you know, be at your own risk when you do that shit.
Yeah, move with caution. 99, a lot of albums came out, man. Ja Rule, he releases Veni Vidi Vici, and that's the album that had Holla Holla, It's Murder.
That was the job. That was the Ja we all knew and loved.
That's the Ja I liked. He released 2 albums after that were selling, but you were getting into the crooning Ja, like Barry White. Are you?
How would I be about you? Yeah, when he was, you know, and also I just want to point out that 50 Cent made fun of him for doing that and then did that. And I just never understood that at the time, but that's neither here nor there. This vintage of Ja, this year, the bouquet it was perfect, Steve. This is what you want.
Yeah, man. When we knew about him for the first time, he was a rapper.
Yeah.
He was doing cameos with Jay's, with Ruff. He was cameoing with Rough Riders. He would do songs with DMX, with Jay-Z, with the top dogs that we've already admired, man. And yeah, like Vinny Vidi Vici went like I had to stop saying that he's trash because I remember this album. It's like, let's be fair to Ja. You deserve better.
Early Ja was great. Like, remember that song he had on the Rush Hour soundtrack with Jay-Z and shit? I mean, it was on one of their albums, but
Exactly.
the dude was fire, and he was like, he tried to act. Tried to get into that game too, but Ja Rule for a while was setting the world on fire. So he didn't suck. He just veered off into some shit because he also had Ashanti, so probably just wanted to hang out with her for and I would have done it too. I'd start singing. Fuck it.
Can't blame him. Can't blame him. Shout out to Ja. And also in 99, the peer-to-peer file sharing network Napster is launched, and the music world will never be the same. Gained.
It was so awesome. When we were in that pipeline, Steve, when it was vintage this and LimeWire, when you could get anything. You could type in like just a name or even porn titles, anything. You could get it, anything. Little comedy sketches, little radio, like Howard Stern episodes, anything. It was glorious. I loved it.
The self-education that we went through to download these files. What is compression? Uncompress? Well, shit. I know now.
Yeah. How do I do this? I remember like being it was like a daunting thing, but within like this is one of the things where we all learned it immediately. Like, oh, how does that work? Oh, now I have 1 million songs in my hard drive. This is fantastic. And then the burning, and then the CD burnings, and then the little businesses that happened in high schools because people would burn fucking movies onto CDs and all that shit. I mean, we lived in a great time, Steve. Piracy,
the 2 for 5s,
just unlimited piracy. I love it.
I got Soul Plane and Baby Boy for $10. Word?
Yeah,
watch this home.
All of it. Yes, please.
Man, WrestleMania 1 through 5.
99, dude. The albums, we get Napster too, so then we could steal all these great albums that were coming out. I mean, Jesus, thank you.
Well, Sean Fanning, man, you are a martyr. Fuck what Lars Ulrich has to say. But any callbacks, honorable mentions, or switcheroos, good sir?
Just shout out to Dinosaurs because I love this show and I love the weirdness that we were getting in the 90s where people were like, you know what we need? Roseanne, but it's puppets and dinosaurs. Fuck it. Let's try this out. And it works so well. So let that be a lesson to people out there creating shows. Maybe someday we'll do it. Stop making remakes and make something weird because maybe it'll work out like this because this was a thing, Steve. Not the mama, suck a dick.
Like we don't have that anymore, man. Like that was seen on t-shirts. They would have that on buttons, not the mama with the little baby's logo.
I mean, shit, eat my shorts. People were like, we were getting catchphrases where it was like a whole fucking, it would like create a wave. So there's just none of that. And it's cool to watch these, even the Critic, dude. It's like a cartoon. Why make this? I don't know. It's just fucking, it's funny and weird. It's a way to spoof Hollywood in a weird way. So I love it. How about you?
In 1996, I overlooked that when Woody the bartender was getting arrested for hemp seeds, Tom Holland was born, the English actor, 1996, man. Happy birthday to Spider-Man.
Tom Holland, dude. The perfect Spider-Man. Sorry, Toby. I like your movies more, but Tom Holland, I got to give it to him. I've liked everything that kid's done in Marvel movies, so shout out.
It took me a while to let go of Toby. It took me a while, man.
We're still, you're probably going to get more, Steve. Who knows? But Toby, I love you. But Tom, you're killing it. Keep it up.
Yeah, shout out to the Get Pussy crew. And June 1st, 1998, Raw is airing And Vince, it's funny to me that he's still doing the narration of Raw. Like he'll start off like, oh, the last episode. And then he even like talks about himself in the third person. Like, because this is the time when him and Austin are starting their feud. And he's like, yeah, he did this to Vince, to Mr. McMahon. And like, dude, this is you. You're talking like you're the ego, the
Vince
Mr. Burns
liking this. Like, what the fuck, dude?
And it's only funny in hindsight because like what we know now, but like he was still doing this in 98. And Val Venus has a match, and I found this funny, man. He remember when he would like be on the microphone before his match, like the bell would ring, or no, before the bell would ring, he would say some shit. This time he says, "Hey, I'm not happy to see you. That is a gun in my pocket, and this gun shoots no blanks. Ooh." And then, like right after that, he just goes into laying into the opponent. Like you gotta see it, bro. June 1st, 98 Raw, just for that match alone, man. And also in the end, Stone Cold is doing commentary, and he's sitting next to Vince. And I just found it funny when he said, "You ain't worthy of kissing my ass."
I love it, dude. He can say that to his boss, dude. I love that.
Oh, and Nitro that same night, Goldberg faces La Parka, and he hits 94-0. This is when we're doing our count to 100.
La Parka probably did a weird jittery dance that I used to love. I love me some La Parka.
Coming out with the chair, fucking love La Parka, man.
Oh yeah.
And Goldberg is somebody we really have not talked about a lot yet, but that's probably going to change here in the coming days.
Yeah, we'll get to it. I mean, he's going to get his due. He's a legend.
Yeah, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. Please tell your favorite stepmother to holla. Listen to Crushgasm every Wednesday and B3F podcast with Joey and Steve, with Amanda and Wade. This is Steve G and Mad G, and happened in the 90s.
Hello, ladies.